good afternoon, good evening. How are you all? Yes, welcome back to another live stream. Tonight, tonight, we're going to talk about a right find mess we find ourselves in. And actually, that's not right. However, the end of BLHeli 32, or at least as it seems. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about potentially the end of DJI. It's all a bit doom and gloom tonight, in the USA at least, and I'm just going to share with you some of my thoughts, and I have done some of this today, actually, but even I'm thinking it could happen. We're going to talk about AM32, because as we have the end of potentially BLHeli 32, we're going to have the end of the beginning of something new, and actually we will come out of this stronger, better than we have ever been before. And we're going to talk about anything else that comes up as we move along. I will answer any of your questions you may have too. And I'm also just trying to remember, I'm padding to remember what else I put in the title, because I've forgotten. Oh, yes, the controversy this week. That's right, the controversy of Caddx FPV in my video. So, yes, we're going to talk about that as well. Hello, Joseph, how are you? Hello, Captain Bry, how are you, my friend? I'm not going to get to everyone, but Floorfly is here, Chris is here, Omar's here, Yes No RC. That's a great name, I like that. I can say it, that's why I like it. Taco FPV, Sonic Tonic, another phenomenal name. I like that. Failsafe FPV, how are you, my friend? We're going to get you on one day. I did see your message last week. I was late getting on the stream and I forgot to reply. It's been a busy week. We're going to get Failsafe on one week because he's a proper pilot. Darkman, how are you? One Willy FPV, how are you? Hello, hello, hello to everyone. Macron. Now, I might be looking a bit red and tan because the sun has been out in Wales. Not only has the sun been out, it's also been windy as well. I've flown quite a bit the last 2 days, actually. Been doing a couple of things. I'll start on a couple of sort of lighter notes. I was flying this today. For those who haven't seen it, and I think I mentioned this on last week's stream. Nearly dropped it. This is the iFlight Nazgul Eco. And there's two versions of this. There's an analog version available for $199. I'm going to say that again. A full 5-inch analog FPV quad for $199. And the 03 version that I've got here is $399, and I'm just finishing up the review on it. And I've got to say, for the money, this is a phenomenal deal. You basically got a $200 quad here with the Zing E-Pro motors. You've got their 80 flight controller. It's running Blue Jay from the factory. Interesting conversation we'll have about that. And I have to say, honestly, I've crashed it. I've buried it in sand. I hit rocks today with it. For the money, this is a phenomenal buy. And I'm going to say something a little bit controversial in my head. I'm not sure why you really need to buy the Evoke. And I love the Evoke. I think the Evoke is a phenomenal quad. But I'm not sure if it's better. I'm just not sure it's better than this. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just not sure it's better than this. What I will also say is, one thing I was looking for on this very specifically was vibrations in the 03 footage, and there is none that I can tell. The Evoke does suffer a little bit from it. Now, iFlight did change the dampers on the camera to silicon from TPU, and that helped. It's got a slightly different front end, okay? So if I just go to the overhead, it's a smaller front end than on the normal Evoke. It's not as deep. It's aluminium, but it's a bit smaller and narrower. Let me try and get it under the focus there. It's not easy to show you. It's not as big, but I'll be honest. For the money, it's at the stage of me saying, if you want to go out and buy a bind and fly 5-inch quad, just buy this. I don't think there's any point spending more money than this out the door on day one. iFly are extremely competitive. I got, there you go, Mo Blaze just said, I got the analog Nazgul 6S for I'm assuming it says 199 because my heart's over the top of it, US dollars for a backup for 2022 Rampage. Yeah, phenomenal money, just phenomenal money. So really impressed with that, I have to say. You do forget at times that all the extra bells and whistles are not necessarily worth it. And that doesn't mean the Evoke is a bad quad. But it is. I've also been flying this today. I love this, right? I'm trying to finish my review of it. And here's something funny. I'll show you something. I actually ended up flying this into a river today. If I just go to the desktop view a minute and put this video up. Oh, let me put this up full screen. I ended up hitting a fence panel with it and landing it, look, right in the river. Water literally running through.
I'm going to see if I can fly that out because that is down.
It's down in a ravine.
Okay.
And the water was flying. Oh, sorry. The water was going straight through the stack in the middle, but it didn't burn out. So happy days. But I've given it an IPA bath tonight. But I really like this little quad. I really like this. It's not a river. Vertical video, yes. What was wrong about that video, right, is instead of me jumping in to get it out as soon as possible, I decided to get my phone out of my pocket and film it in the water because it's still powered up. But yeah, it's a great little drone, honestly. The only complaint is the battery situation. You want to change that connector and get yourself a proper 2S for it. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I did publish a video today. I thought I was down the beach. I'd flown. I have a bit of an issue. I need to order some 6S packs. So there is a bit of a story. It's not a river. It's a stream. All right. I fly by rivers. It's a stream. I know. I meant to say stream. It's got a bloody bottle in it as well, which is a bit dirty. But I two of my I'm a bit low on 6S packs. I need to order some this year because over the winter, I've binned a bunch of them. And I'm running a bit low on 6S packs and I need to order some. So I'm now having to charge a bit more between flights than I was usually. And I had a bit of downtime today, as I showed in the video. And I just thought it was about time we had a bit of a catch-up just to talk about some things and discuss where things have been with the channel for the last few months and where things are at with my head and some of the comments and some of the feedback and really just more of a... I'm going to sit here and sort of ramble on, as I said in the title, for a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a, look, what you're getting is me. Look, that's just my thoughts, my opinions, my thoughts on everything. And it's weird because as a creator, sometimes it's good to sit down and do a video like that. Wasn't quite the Linus Tech Tips video. Oh, my tea has arrived. 1 second. Let me just grab my cup of tea and a drink. There we go. But yes, it was nice to have a sit down and just have a talk and just really explain where things are. Because believe it or not, I could have changed it. I filmed it today. This is probably dirty, if I'm honest. I haven't had a chance. This could actually be dirty because I've been in it all day. But yeah, it was... Look, and something I will say is this. Creators are people as well, and don't think, if you say something nasty to someone, don't think that they don't always read it or they don't always take it on board or they don't even be affected by it, because you always want to sort of go, okay, is that right? Is that an opinion? And sometimes it's yeah, it's just the thoughts, and yeah, just be kind is the term I always like to use. But it was lovely down there. I've been down here 3 times today. That beach between batteries and family and tide. The tide was coming in when I finished up. So, but anyway, enough of that nonsense. I remember the time. Yeah, and look, just a comment is, look, you know, it's if the problem is everyone nowadays, and I'm as guilty as this, is entitled to an opinion, and we are. But just don't think the person behind the camera is a soulless entity who doesn't feel and doesn't think and doesn't have thoughts and opinions and feelings on what people say. And it's not that, you know, you've just always got to be honest with yourself. And if you're not questioning what you're doing, you're probably not doing it right. You know, it's good to question it. But look, it was a video I felt it was appropriate. It wasn't a Linus meltdown video, if anyone's seen his one. So it was just me sharing some thoughts, and I shared some thoughts on DJI and stuff, and we're going to cover some of that stuff tonight anyway. So, but anyway, it's been an interesting few days. And it's been an interesting few days for us, but it's definitely been an interesting few days for manufacturers. And you've probably seen my video and everything going around, but I am just going to put this up quickly. So, we are from the seams of it, and I am going to be a bit careful here because we don't know the full story, but it does appear we are at the end of BLHeli 32. Now, they've decided to stop issuing new licenses and close down the business. So, what does this mean for users, first of all? And I want to get this out the way. If you own an ESC, you've just bought one, there is nothing you need to worry about. There is nothing that you need to do right now at all, okay? Your gear still works. Your BLHeli 32 ESC is fine. In fact, their firmware servers are still up. I have seen some comments that you can't do anything now. It's not true. In my tests, you can even update the firmware right now on your BLHeli 32 ESC if it's on older firmware. That might not last forever, but today that is still there. But all of your hardware still works the same. So for people who already have one, your world doesn't change. The people this affects is manufacturers and us buying ESCs moving forward. So as I understand it, and I've had so many people reach out, some amazing people contact me over this. You can still upgrade, you can still downgrade, as Joseph says. The real key here is this. This affects manufacturers. So as of Friday, manufacturers could no longer license new production ESCs. So my understanding of the way the BLHeli system worked is you could buy licenses on an individual basis, or you could buy them in blocks, 100,000, whatever. You would top up your account with money, is the easiest term for me to say it. Then you had the manufacturer then would license each ESC, because remember, a 4-in-1 is actually 4 licenses because each MCU needs a license, but you would then license the ESC on installing of the bootloader and firmware, and then that was licensed, and then BLHeli Suite would detect if that license was there. So, from Friday, manufacturers can't license any new ESCs. That's the basics. So, production from Friday is potentially on stop. Everything that's already done is fine. Anything in the supply chain is fine. It is what hasn't been licensed yet. Now, what is interesting is, I think this caught everyone by surprise. No one saw this coming, as far as I understand it. There are manufacturers with what I hear is fairly substantial sums of money that they paid for future licenses that they haven't got. And I don't believe, or I don't think anyone knows if they're going to get that back. So what I mean by that is, I've bought a block of 1,000 licenses. I've used 200 of that 1,000. Yet from Friday, it's on stop. You can't use any more. So wait a minute. What about my money I've paid for my 800 licenses? My understanding are there are some manufacturers who have been left out of pocket and locked out of money that they have already paid upfront for licensing, and they're no longer able to produce. Now, the interesting thing in all of this is no one really saw this coming. It just seemed to happen. And what I am going to say is this. There are things that I said in that video which I firmly believe, which is if this had to stop, it should have been open sourced. But that is a very naive and easy way of looking at this. And this is really not a simple situation. It is a complex one on many levels. We do not know the ins and outs. I'm not going to call the guys at BLHeli bad, evil, nasty. We just don't know. All we know is they've stopped. So today we're in the position of, let's not worry about the why. The why is irrelevant at this point because it's over. They've told us it's over. As for it being open source, that may A, not even be legally possible. B, it is their IP as well. And whilst we all would like it to be open sourced, that isn't the case. The only thing I fully agree on, and this was a comment that was put to me, is for those who don't know, BLHeli actually locked the bootloaders, which make it difficult to replace firmware on existing ESCs with, say, AM32 that we're going to come on to now. This doesn't affect brand new ESCs being manufactured, but it affects people with ESCs today. The only thing I would say is, as BLHeli 32 is no longer going to be providing updates, no longer going to be providing future firmware, I would like a solution released to unlock those locked bootloaders on those ESCs. So if users wanted to, in the event of a horrible bug being found tomorrow, replace the firmware on their ESCs. That's about the only thing I can say absolutely should happen. As Joseph has just said, from what I understand, they can't sell it, they can't open source it. Yeah, I think, look, so I'm not going to throw blame. I'm not going to blame Putin. I'm not going to blame them. They've done what they've had to do. We may not like it. It is what it is right now. The only thing I would ask personally is, can you unlock the bootloaders and let us get on with it? And that is all we can do. But there is some pain here, mostly for manufacturers. From a user perspective, you're okay. Your ESC works. Don't worry. What you are likely to find in the short term is a shortage of 32-bit based ESCs. And the reason I say this is there now is only really 3 options in the marketplace for 32-bit ESCs. Luckily, there is AM32, which I'll come on to in a minute. We have Escape 32, which I'll come on to in a minute. And then there's FetTech, basically. Now, FetTech is also closed source. That is interesting. And all I want to say is, because I don't want to upset anyone on this, but I find it interesting that FetTech are able to continue being a German-based company. They make some good products. Yet BLHeli can't. But, you know, why does this affect one and not the other is my point within the EU and things like this. But we don't know the politics. That's all I'm going to say. It's just complicated. You have out there today SkyStars who have been very much almost 50-50 by product in the AM32 BLHeli 32 camp for some time. So SkyStars are absolutely fine. But there are brands out there who have either been full BLHeli 32. I think Diatone, when I looked through Diatone's website, it was all, the Mamba stacks were all BLHeli 32. iFlight have very much been mixed, as has SpeedyBee. So you're going to see options, but it's going to take a bit of time. Luckily, there's still 8 bits. The world isn't going to end. We're all fine. The reality is things will be okay. FetTech isn't used in the Hurricane Raw. Well, look, it's not about what is used. It's about what is available. This is the complexity of it. So the interesting thing now is what happens next. And this is where we end up at AM32. And I'm going to be fair tonight and highlight the three options that I know of today. So you have FetTech, closed source ESCs, their own firmware that exists. You have AM32. Now, AM32 is by far the biggest, sort of the most likely winner here in all of this. It has some backing from some amazing people. There are people who have been involved with it, who have been around the background of it. There is a lot of really good people who have been around this project, friends of this project, know this project. That is the old one. Yeah, let me take it to the new one. Where is it? The latest firmware can be found here. That's the old one. Let me get to the new one. Sorry, they changed their GitHub. There it is. I searched it on Google. There it is. Here's the new one. So, AM32, and there's a lot of good people who have experience in open source, have experience in projects that are very successful, who are sort of saying this is the way forward. So AM is definitely probably going to be the big winner. There is also another project called Escape 32, and I didn't know, or ESC Ape 32, whichever way you want to pronounce it, Escape 32. I don't really know much about this. I have been told some things. I can't comment on it. I just don't know. I'm not going to comment on what I've been told. I don't think this is the answer as far as I understand it today. And I don't want to be negative on a project I don't know about. I just don't know enough about it. But some of the stuff I've been told is thing. But look, the chances are there's going to be more than one winner here. AM32, though, feels the natural way forward. And that seems to be where people who I trust in the community feel the right way forward is. And that's likely where we're going to end up. But it's going to take some time. And here's what's important now, right? The most important thing today is manufacturers do not rush out and start flashing their previous, what they would have flashed with BLHeli 32 ESCs. Tomorrow, start flashing them with AM32. What now needs to happen is these manufacturers, so all of you, need to get in touch with the dev team, talk to the project, lay out a plan, back the project, both with what you intend to do and financially. You need to put your money where your mouth is on this as well. Now, I have seen some comments of people saying, oh, great, AM32 should mean cheaper ESCs. I actually believe it could mean more expensive ESCs, but that's okay. Don't take that as a negative. Right. You have to understand, and I don't necessarily think it will mean they're that much dearer, but listen to where I'm going here. BLHeli 32 was licensed. The numbers I've been told were fairly low, but it was one guy's pet project largely. If we want this to work, if we want AM32 to work, we need that dev team to be viable. We need that dev team to get money from the community, money from the manufacturers to allow these guys to build the project, continue the project, and make it work. What isn't going to work is manufacturers rushing out and installing this and not supporting the project. Now, AM32 has some great plans, and it is actually quite a similar model to the likes of Express LRS, where the manufacturers can support it, which is fantastic. You're going to get sort of tested hardware, which is going to be, they know it's working and this stuff. But there is the risk, as there was the risk with Express LRS, and I actually expressed this risk to the devs tonight myself, which is you've got to be careful of manufacturers running out, installing it, having crap tons of problems because your name is attached to it. And this is what did happen with Express LRS. bad receivers, bad designs, crystal oscillator issues. All people saw was Express LRS along the top. What they didn't see is the manufacturer hadn't supported it. And the dev team at ExpressODef have done an incredible job, actually, of now going, no, this is not our problem. And a classic of that is that thing I talked about 2 weeks ago, where they highlighted Foxeer for selling damaged, bad design receivers from the beginning. But it needs to be done in the right way. So right now, the answer isn't everyone running out and just installing AM32. The answer is all of the manufacturers talking to the dev teams, laying out a plan. It's not going to be hard for them to convert. It's not going to be difficult, but they also need to start paying for this, because the risk is that they will just say, hey, open source, we're downloading it, we've adjusted it for our own use, and we're pitching it out and not supporting the project. We as the community need this project to succeed. That means it needs money. That means it needs support from the brands, and they need to get involved. And that's the important thing on this. But one thing I'm going to say is, don't think automatically things are going to be cheaper. Don't assume it. We don't want it to. I don't want it cheaper. What I want is to replace what we have with something that is open source, something that is not closed, that we as a community can understand the issues. The biggest problem with BLHeli 32 is it was so secretive, you never knew what was really going on in the background. And that's the big issue. Now, with regards to 8-bit, I see a lot of talk of BlueJ, and obviously we're still going to have 8-bit. 8-bit isn't going nowhere. BlueJ now is basically the standard in 8-bit. I honestly believe you'll see the end of BLHeli. I think it'll fade away now. I think it will vanish. But I think BlueJ and AM32, as far as I can see it today, is the way forward. Ian FPV said the license fee for BLHeli was like $1. I believe it was potentially even less than that. It was dependent on the manufacturer. I've heard it that even is on the necessarily yeah, Ian, on the and even on the upper scale. I've even heard numbers lower than that given. So you're talking $3 to $4 an ESC, let's just say, for the licensing fee. It would be great if BL32 bootloader mechanics were released to the community that now, and they are down the now that they are down the toilet. That would be awesome, and we could flash 100%. Wes, that's what I said earlier. The bootloader, look, the project being open source is a different complex issue. The bootloaders need to be released to allow users out. Today, there are no major known issues with BLHeli 32 that we're aware of. So any versions that you've got are fine. As far as we're aware, it's safe to use. There's no major bugs. There's no major issue here. The problem is what happens if a new major issue appears and what happens with development. But yeah, the bootloader needs to be unlocked. That's the key now to allow people. But again, I'm going to be straight with you. There is no need for anyone to run out and flash it today. Just if your ESC is working, carry on. If you want to have a poke, go get yourself a SkyStars. SkyStars have been selling them. I've got a couple of SkyStar ESCs on the way over. And I'll be honest, I've been lazy. Many of us have been lazy. We've sat back and not pushed this as hard as we should have. We should have been on this before now, a lot more than we were. And I'm disappointed in myself because I've just been happy with BLHeli 32. But if you look on their website, so if I go to ESCs on SkyStars, they've got a good mix. They have about 4 of each, if I recall. So yeah, you had 4 BLHeli 32s. And 4 AM32s, and they are cheap. Some of them are cheaper, some of them are more expensive, but it's not just about price. Didn't BL32 kind of plateau in development? Yeah, it did. what is actually interesting in this, and something I didn't know about, was how actually heavily used BLHeli 32 is in different industries as well, in different scenarios. I know it's used quite a lot in helicopters, ESCs and stuff too. So it's going to be a problem across the board. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Now, what I would say is this. If you want to help the future, please do support the projects. This is the Patreon for AM32. It is there. It is available. It is a Patreon for the community. They are in the process of setting up new stuff as well. I don't know much about this escape. I can't really comment on it. I suspect we'll start to see ESCs, but I think right now AM32 is where my feeling is, and that's where I think the best way forward is personally. $32.10 works good for me, yeah. Yeah, and because I said earlier, and as Wes has quite rightly said, release the bootloaders. If BLHeli 32 could release the bootloaders, then at least we can get on with our lives. The only, I guess, risk is he won't necessarily want to release the bootloaders because that could open the door to hacking. And that's the next problem. That is the potential risk. But yeah, that's what I'd heard ENF as well. It's a few dollars. If you think BLHeli was about big money, it's not. Something interesting, right? And I wasn't going to put this in. Let me just find it. This is a bit controversial, but I'm going to do it. Something interesting. A couple of guys on my Discord started just having a look at things. And I tell you what is interesting. Because BLHeli was a public company, right? Their accounts are published. And there was a very interesting change in, let's just say, profit and income. Let me just find the chart. Here it is. Now, this was shared with a couple of the guys on my Discord. I can't remember who it was. And this is interesting because this was the... I think it was the profit and income over the period. And what is without doubt is the increase in this period here. And that says a lot in itself. That tells you an incredible amount in itself. That's a big upturn in turnover and profit. So why is there a big upturn in turnover and profit? FPV hasn't grown that much, but I think we all know what has. Very interesting indeed. Now, I'm not saying that's their fault. I'm not saying it was even intentional. But from their perspective, they clearly had a very large increase. Was that you, Killdozer, who did that? I couldn't... in turnover and revenue. And perhaps someone's conscience got to them. That's all it is. So, and I'm not even saying they're bad. At the end of the day, they're selling a product. They're not selling it. They're not even selling. They're selling software that goes into a product. And it's very hard for them to control what that's used for other than stop making it. That's the problem. But yeah, a very, very interesting chart. And when you look at those numbers, right, you're talking bumbling along at like 3,000, and that's over 9,000. Bumbling along at 3,000, and that's over 9,000, and it's the same over here. It's a very, very substantial increase in turnover and revenue. Can't be a comfortable position to be in when you realize what where your product is being used. Yeah, and this is why I have openly said earlier, I'm going to put no blame on this. I think it's a very difficult position. If you look, the question you've always got to say, can you sleep at night? And that is a difficult thing. And look, none of us like what's happened, but can I imagine being in a situation if I made something which was, you know, from my perspective, disconnected from the front end of things. So I'm selling a piece of code, and then I find out that piece of code is being used for something that is potentially very nasty. You've then got to decide, do you still want to do that? Do you still want to be a part of this? And no one wants to give up on a business, but sometimes you may not have a choice. Yeah. Same. Yeah, and this is it. And so you're going to hear no hate from me towards them. I'm going to wish them all the best. The only thing I would ask is please unlock the bootloaders. Please, please, please unlock the bootloaders. So, that is the ESC situation. What a few days it's been. I was lucky. I was actually really lucky that this landed, because the video went out quite early and it landed in the UK. Some very good people started messaging me early doors on this. And it's actually my fault because I was half asleep. I had a very late night the night before, so I had a bit of a lie-in. Yes, Gary, it wasn't that early. I did see your comment. But I had my phone was buzzing and I was ignoring it. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Wait there. And then I was like, oh, right. Okay. Really? And, it is Dano, but also it isn't the same in the sense of he is one of a small few. And look, let's be honest, BLHeli 32's argument is there's open source alternatives out there. I'm not really affecting anything. Look, who is going to be really hurt by this in the short term? Manufacturers, not us. We'll be all right. FPV be fine. There's 8-bit ESCs out there. There's enough supply out there. This is a blip. AM32 will benefit incredibly from this, and rightly so. But the reality is, what's happened is a monopoly has been broken overnight. And actually, this will be the best thing that can happen to us. As an FPV community, this is by far one of the best things that will happen in a long time, because now that means we will have open source flight stacks. All of the flight stacks that have any prominence are open source. ArduPilot, PX4, Betaflight, iNav, they're all open. Express ELRS smashed the RC controlling world open. That has taken over. Now it's time for the ESC. And we've all been sort of stuck in, well, 8-bit isn't good enough really, but AM32 has been building up. This is the perfect timing. Timing-wise, it couldn't be better overall. It's a forced push, nonetheless, but it is, and we will all benefit from it in the end, with a lot more openness, with a lot more things that we've asked for, a more community approach to our ESCs. I don't know what I can and can't say, because I have been talking with the devs at AM32. They're a great guy. I was put in touch with her. And there's stuff I've been told, so I need to be a bit careful. But look, even the stuff I've been told already is like, oh, that's fantastic. That's just brilliant. Like, already you're seeing it going, oh, this is going to work. This is going to work. This is game on now. Game on. So that's it. So don't worry, it will be fine. Right, time to catch up on the chat. So if you have any questions for a few minutes, please do post them in the comment section. I'm going to do a bit of shilling quickly. If you'd like to support the channel, super chats are welcome, but they're not required for me to answer a question. If you'd also like to support us, please consider checking out the links to my Patreon in the description. I want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patrons. I would not be able to do this without your support. I'm just now going to read up on the chat a minute. Moving up. I'm in the UK, and since Avata 2 update, I now have FCC mode unlocked on my drone. I don't see anyone talking about it. I talked about it in the video that released the other day, and I have pinned a comment, Truth, on that video. I've got to decide what to do about that video, the FCC video. I probably need to remake it. I did talk about that in my Avata 2 video that I put out this week. Is the spark arrestor a limitation in power delivery and a failure point in iFlight? It is a failure point. It is an additional failure point. I will... I'll have a look now, don't I? It is an additional failure point. I've not seen one fail. Anything you add into a chain is an additional failure point. I've not had a problem with them. It's basically a FET transistor. So all it is a FET, a large FET transistor. It's basically like having a DJI battery in some ways, because the DJI batteries have FETs in that turn the battery on and off. And what they've done is that. So the spark arrestor is just a big FET transistor that basically ramps the power up, is what it does. Avata 2 on Goggles 2 have the same range as on Goggles 3. Okay, I showed it in the video. I couldn't see any difference in my test so far. I would expect, without doubt, there to be a marginal difference, because the Goggles 3 have 6 antennas for 04, and the Goggles 2 only have 4. So the Goggles 3 have 6 antennas, of which 6 can receive and 4 can transmit. Whereas on the Goggles 2, you have 4 antennas, of which only 2 can transmit and 4 can receive. So the Goggles 3 have some additional antennas, but there is a plateau that you reach with this. You know, 4, 6, 8, 16, 24 antennas. How far do you go with this? There will be scenarios where the Goggles 3 will be better. I couldn't really see it. It was very, very marginal. And that also stands for the difference between the 50 and the 60 megabits a second. Because remember, on the Goggles 2, it can only do up to 40 megahertz carrier. On the Goggles 3, it can do up to 60 megahertz carrier. By far, the biggest issue, and I haven't shared this yet, by far the major issue is the new DJI 4K mode. Now, I'm going to drop this, a little bombshell here, right? This is going into a video, and I was going to... this is going into a video in the very near future. It's almost finished. I've just had to redo all of my charts because DJI went and changed things. But let me show you something, and this is a sneak peek. So, apologise. Oh, I didn't see podcast. Wait there. Has it come up? I'll have a look at it in a second. I haven't. They've come up. I'll have a look what they are in a second. So, DJI introduced 4K 100 on the Avata 2 last week. However, let me give you a warning. Don't expect it to perform the same as 2.7K 100. Sorry, let me start this again. So, last week, DJI introduced 4K 100 frames a second on the Avata 2, whereas originally it only had 1080p 100 and 2.7K 100. Now, DJI in their specifications have actually said about a 2 millisecond latency drop on 04. I'm going to be honest with you now, I'm not seeing it. However, this is the scary thing, right? Let me turn my camera off so you can see. So, 04 in 1080p and 2.7K at 100 frames a second basically has the same average latency as the Goggles 2 with 03. There is no improvement in latency. However, the new 04 4K 100 frames a second mode is horrific. It is not performing the same as the Avata 1 in 100 sorry, the Avata 1 doesn't do 100. It is not performing the same as 03 in 100 frames a second. 03 has the same latency in 1080p, 2.7K or 4K 100. The Avata 2 doesn't. The latency in 4K 100 is horrific. I actually think they're running the goggles at 50 frames a second, not 100 frames a second. Now, there is actually some logic to this, and that logic is as follows. So, the Avata 1 topped out at 4K 60. They never introduced the 4K 100. 03 did introduce the 4K 100, which gives you the low latency modes. And as I've said, 03 in 1080p, 2.7K and 4K has the same latency. It's the same across the board. Remember 120 hertz or 120 frames a second is not as low as 100 because the goggles are running at 100. It needs to match the screen. However, the 03 Air unit is not running the flight stack. So in the Avata, DJI run the flight stack and the vision positioning all on the same chipset as they run the video on, the Eagle 3T. There is no additional chipset in the Avata series. The Avata was the first drone from DJI, I think it was the first off the top of my head, to run the flight stack on the same MCU as OcuSync is running. So the Eagle 3 has everything running on board. I'm sure the Avata 1 was the first they did this on. Now, the Avata 1 and 03 is the same unit, but DJI isn't running a flight controller. They are not running vision positioning either. The Avata 2 is the same processor. So again, we now have a drone with a higher pixel image sensor with the same video processor, but again, they're running the flight control stack, the vision positioning, and all of the DJI OS on the same chipset. Our feeling is, and having talked to some people, the feeling is that DJI might be resource constrained, and as a result of that, they can't run the pipeline at full pelt in 4K 100 mode. Because what you've got to take into account is they're running two streams at the same time. You've got the recording stream as well as the live view stream. So what is actually incredibly impressive is they're running a recording stream at 4K 100 at the same time as running a live view stream at 1080p 100 and running a flight stack and running image processing. So we actually think, the feeling is, I say we, it's a bunch of people, is that DJI is probably a little resource constrained. And as a result of that, they're downstepping it to probably 50 frames a second live feed, hence the reason we're getting the big latency. The latency happens to match the 50, 60 frames a second mode. So that is something to be aware of. Remember, there is only one mode on the Avata 2 that has the low latency anyway. So it's 2.7K 100 or 1080p 100. It is only those two modes that have that. Right. What's up, FPV? A massive thank you for the £5. You are incredible, my friend. We need to have a catch-up. It's been a long time. Thank you for that. Podcast for 35 ZAR. I don't know how much it is, but thank you for... I know it's 35 ZAR, but I don't know how much it is. Do I think special activities have overtaken hobby and racing? Possibly. Very, very possibly. Special activities have taken over friggin' everything, I think. Don't forget about Escape 32. I did mention that quick flash earlier. I imagine it would be okay for slow-moving flying shots or fast-moving objects. Yeah, it'll be okay. Yeah. Ian, how's the fly fish frame? Couldn't find the video on apart from the build. I haven't done the part 2. I need to finish the part 2. The Caddx Goggles X and the Moonlight Kit does too. Yes, similar in the way it behaves in the modes. Yes, it is. It's very similar. Yeah, in that. But yeah, a little thing. Right, now the latency video for DJI was finished. In fact, it was finished and published. And I had to take it down. And the reason I had to take it down was because DJI went and bloody changed everything. So there are some people who have seen a latency video on 04. And there are some, most of you haven't, because I had to take it down within an hour of publishing because DJI released the new thing. Made me laugh because Sean at Gigs Varner emailed me and messaged me and he was like, are DJI watching your videos and releasing firmware based on what you're saying? Which made me laugh. And then Ken Dobo told me not to be so big-headed, basically. So 03 will be the way to go when I'm wanting to fly. 03 offers the lowest latency today. What I can tell you is I'm not seeing any latency drop in the Avata 2 compared to the 03 or the Avata 1. This 24 milliseconds I'm not seeing. The lowest that I've seen is 26. I'm not saying DJI are lying, but what I'm saying is the way I measure it compared to the way they probably measure it, and I say in the video, I suspect what DJI do is log their own internal latency number in the logs, and where they're saying 24 milliseconds is probably the lowest number they've seen in a log somewhere, and they've gone, oh, that'll do. Because that's how marketing, tell us what the lowest latency number we've seen in our testing. Oh, at one point, at 1 millisecond, it went down to 24 milliseconds. Okay, 24 milliseconds. And latency with goggles and Integra. Haven't done that testing yet. I wouldn't expect there to be a difference. I did check 4K and 1080p and it was the same. So far, I basically think it's the same. I haven't done all of the numbers, but I've done the basic tests and it's basically the same. Yeah, the big difference with 03 is that DJI basically have what they call their smooth sync. You only get this in the 100 modes, but smooth sync is a form of like free sync. It always delivers the frames in a more smooth way. Basically like AMD FreeSync or NVIDIA. What's the NVIDIA one called? Someone remind me. What's the NVIDIA one called? FreeSync and... Is it NSync? If it's NVIDIA, it's probably NSync. I can't remember what the NVIDIA is called. FreeSync and NVIDIA likes their name and everything. So G-Sync, sorry, that's it. G-Sync. I knew their name would be in it because it's GeForce Sync. That's what it is. Yeah. The 100 frames a second modes... Well, not 4K 100. It doesn't work in 4K 100, I can tell you that. G-Sync, yeah, I couldn't think. But yeah, the 1080p and the 2.7K 100 and 03 has, in the 100 frames a second mode, has this sync. And it smooths everything out. And I can even see it in the latency testing. The Avata 2 with the Goggles 2 have more break... The Avata 2 and the Goggles 2 have more breakup than with the Goggles 3. Not that I've seen, but unless you're telling me it does. Have more. I've not noticed any difference between the two. Good evening, GMI. How are you? Hello, Thomas. Before we move on, I'm new Bamboo Lab owner. Creality before the mini video and showed the Y-axis needing to be looped. But what's with the other axis? Wouldn't make sense why I would only need to do it on one axis. Yeah, they've got slightly different setups on the 2-axis. I'm not sure. Do me a favor, pop onto my Discord if you're on Discord and send a message. We can have a look. The new Bamboo Lab owner, Creality before, the A1 mini videos, I sure that the Y-axis need to be looked. But what's with the other axes that wouldn't make sense to me? Why I would only need to do it on the one axis? What do you mean? But maybe on the 040 unit we'll have 4K 100 with low latency, but there's no other task. Potentially, yes. Potentially ProTech, yeah. Because you're not running the flight controller, you're not running the vision. It's also worth taking into account on the Avata 2, yeah. On the Avata 2, DJI increased the vision performance as well. Yeah, actually, the other 2 axes are linear rails and don't need to be lubed as frequently. Yeah, you don't need to... The A1 Mini has different axes. It has different setup on each axis. So 2 of them are the same, 1 of them is different. Thought about ELRS Airport. I have Crossfire that I don't use. I will regret if I sell it. I haven't tried the Airport. Thoughts about the Airport. I haven't tried it since the new firmware. I need to have a play. That's something I'm going to do this week. Great, an hour late. Hey, Simon, how are you? Looped. Lubed, you mean? Looped. I was reading looped. You mean lubed. That's why I was sounding confused. I was thinking it's some term I don't know about. Okay, so the next subject. Let me just make sure this all works. The next one is this. Now, DJI is really getting worried. For those who haven't seen, they're posting on social media. They're posting stuff all over the place at the moment. Just move that. I've lost... Where's that gone? There it is. They are posting stuff everywhere. I'll bring up that message on the Sky Stars in a minute. They are clearly very, very worried. They're posting... I'm trying to find the image that I shared the other day. They're clearly concerned because they're basically begging on Twitter right now. Here it is. Let me open this up. You've got posts like this creeping around. They've created this website. They've got this website talking about facts and they want everyone to write to their lawmakers and all of this. I have never seen DJI behave like this. And I'll be honest, I think they're worried. And I think, personally, and as I did talk about this today, but I think there's a very real possibility the real one to watch you with the bands is the FCC one, okay? The other stuff is nonsense. The real one is the radio one, the RF frequency. And if that happens, it's weird territory. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about things like, oh, will DJI block my gear? Right. DJI are not going to stop your gear working. They're not going to introduce a block so your drone won't fly in the USA. They're never going to... If they get banned, your drone will still work today as well as it did yesterday. It is a legislative issue, not a DJI issue. They're not just going to introduce firmware that blocks all the drones from working. They're not going to do that. It's suicide. It's corporate suicide. They're never going to do that. Even if they got banned, your drones will still work. Your air units will still work. Your products will be fine. You don't need to worry about your stuff. It will work. Your problem will be the legality, not if DJI are going to stop me doing what I do. But they are... they are concerned. Brandon Beans, why don't they just block all network traffic to China if they're really worried? The problem is DJI have been saying for years, all of the US, anything, the only drones that talk to the Chinese servers are the Chinese ones. Everything else talks to AWS. I guess the only thing they could do is, if they're worried, is release it. But the drones don't talk now. They're not. This is the problem. It's a bad perception. So there is basically one point where your drone has to communicate, and that's activation. Other than that, you don't have to put it online again unless you need a geo unlock. They can turn that off. But if you don't sync your logs, it's not doing anything. The only time the data is going to DJI is if you choose to sync your logs. Now, you can turn that on and you can turn it off. The problem here is a lot of what is being said, a lot of what is being shown is wrong. It's not correct. But you are right, Brandon. And perhaps it just needs a... We have taken every drone offline permanently. And it's not about the data. It's about it's a political issue, and this is the reality. What they would do, Dons and FPV, is with revoke their FCC license. So every product that gets sold in countries around the world, like the UK gets a CE, FCC in the USA, it has to be licensed. What they can do is revoke DJI's licensing on their products and not allow any new products to be licensed moving forward. So these products will not receive a license to work on the ISM bands, basically. So, and withdraw the current licensing. So it doesn't affect anything else. It just affects the DJI products. It's about Skydio and the deep pockets that they're filling up in Congress. Yeah, it's a political issue. But perhaps you are right, Brandon. There needs to be a very big... You can't blame us for that because we're not able to do it situation. So you send out a new firmware update which goes, this is every DJI drone. This now blocks the drone from talking to us. But it's a big step that they probably don't want to do. And they probably don't want to do it until something happens because it's not going to be undoable. This is the problem. Simon, you were banging on about our hobby being weaponized, scared a lot of people. Well, that's fact. Look, my comments earlier on our hobby being weaponized is not in dispute. That is fact. That's what's happened. We have... That boat sailed 2 years ago. We're now dealing with the... bang on. Oh, bang on. Sorry, not banging on. Banging on is a term in the UK. Sorry, Simon. I guess the reason DJI haven't done it is they don't want to. If they could release a firmware tomorrow that they go, our drones are completely offline now. No more firmware updates. No more anything for you. That's it. It's done. But there's no undoing that. But if you look at what Bamboo did, Bamboo Lab did go that far. You know, there was a lot of noise around Bamboo Lab saying things... Yeah, tariffs, that's the next one. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Bamboo Lab went to the stage of with the open source software and just said, okay, we're going to give you the option, but it's one way. If you want to do it, there's no way back. End of. Sign a disclaimer. And perhaps DJI could do that. DJI's number one problem DJI has always been, and this could have been solved fucking years ago, and I've said this before, their problem is they won't let go. Their number one issue as a brand and as a company is they need to just let go, but they won't. And they will cause themselves to get banned in all of this. In the end of the day, it will be their fault. And it won't be their fault for spying. It will be their fault for being too pig-headed and not doing what needs to be done. So number one, for all of the enterprise products, open up a US manufacturing with US dedicated software to sell to the US government. If they'd have done that, they would not have had a problem today. So all of the M series created a US-based entity, US-based manufacturing, US-only software. They could have done that. And they could have quashed this years ago. But they chose not to. And what they keep doing is pushing to the line and pushing to the line. And there is a point where they just haven't done enough and they're going to get their asses kicked over it. And that will be on them. At the end of the day, it will be their own freaking fault. Because what they could have done is solved this years ago, but they've chosen not to. So in the end, if they get banned, it is of their own making, because they could have stopped this. As has been said, three things. Number one, for enterprise products, release US-based manufacturing with US custom software supported by the US government. Number two, give a complete offline mode for users as standard. Total disconnect. This drone will never go online again with an offline method of firmware updates like you used to have via SD card, like we always had on the older models. And the third thing, don't need the third thing, just do those two. Fuck it, those two is enough. That solves the problem. That's it. But they won't. They'll be pig-headed, and they will go all the way to the end, and they'll get their asses kicked. And that will be their fault. But DJI is not in charge. It's not how large Chinese companies work. No, but then it'll be on them. Then it will be on them. But it could have been done. It could have been done. They could have solved this and quashed the whole thing. I've forgotten about the third thing. It's not important. And then there's the tariffs that are potentially going to come on gear. Look, guys, as I said earlier, we are under siege a little bit. Our hobby is... for those who didn't see my video earlier, as I said, it's hardly surprising we're facing issues when you look at governments, legislators, militaries, everyone looking at what we do and go, wait a minute, a guy can buy this quad for £400, right? A version of this for £200, right? A set of £100 FPV goggles and a £50 remote controller, right? So you're talking, let's just say, $400 all in with a battery. It's got a payload carrying capacity. You can fly it 3 to 4 kilometers with video. It's non-traceable and it can do what it needs to do, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's why they're all scared. And that's why you're going to see tariffs. We are going to get slightly regulated to hell for the next few years. And that's the problem. But single use only. Yeah. It's not just this hobby under siege. No, we're not alone. We're not alone. We're not. TS13 FPV, agreed. Everyone's walking around with... And this is the irony with the DJI thing, right? If you really... I know, I was being generous at 5+. 400 meters line of sight in the UK. Nothing can fly further than 400 meters line of sight in the UK. It's just not possible, unfortunately. But yeah. So, look... with regards to the gear you've got, you don't have to worry. All the stuff you've got is still working. It'll be what it'll be. Let's wait and see. There's 2 elections around the corner. There's all sorts going on. I still think, and I had quite a lot of comments on my Trump thing I said earlier, because a lot of people have pointed out, look, I'm not into American politics, so I don't watch it too closely, that it's actually Trump supporters who are pushing a lot of these bills through, but they're not the big ones. Ignore the ones that look loud and noisy, right? Look at the bills that are quiet, like the FCC one. That's the real one. And I do still see, if Trump gets in, there being an out. I can just see the press conference now. I stopped the drones. I stopped the TikTok. I spoke to President Xi as men, and I told him this has to stop. China, no more spy. China, no spy. You listen to me. He agreed it wouldn't happen. I fixed it all. And I can just see a, North-South Korea style China. I actually wrote it on the Discord. I wrote it on the ExpressRS Discord, the press conference. If I had credits, I would get it done in a Trump voice, but I don't have credits for one of the AI sites. But yeah, basically, Trump will claim that he's fixed all of the problems. I think, genuinely with Biden, I think it'll go through, because there's some serious bubbling on this. And ignore the woman who's protesting on this thing for drones for responders. Ignore that stuff. It's the other stuff you got to look at in the background. Trump will just say he saved the TikTok, he saved the kids, saved the TikTok, saved the drones for the kids. I wrote a speech on the Discord, the ExpressRS Discord, which is, I can just see him a bit like he solved the North-South Korea problem. But, yeah, let's see. It will be what it will be. Right, if you've got any questions, put them below. I'm just catching up on the chat for a moment. America. I do know. My God, I love lurking in other people's stream. Hi, Siati, how are you? Did Bardwell go live today, Siati? I was trying to see earlier. I couldn't see if he was streaming earlier. I assumed you'd be streaming because I know you stream every Sunday, and I try not to overlap, but I tend to go on at 10. I think you've had a couple of hours by then. He didn't. I didn't think he did. I was looking, but I didn't. I couldn't see it. I assumed you would because you tend to every week, but I couldn't see Bardwell's. Oh, I could be talking complete nuts out of Trump. Ah, has he, Siati? I didn't know that. Okay. He's off this month. Oh, okay, look. Someone said to me the other day, we were talking about something the other day, because I know he started doing a Friday, and Bot does a Friday as well, which I think is a complicated one. It's hard to keep up with everyone. I try to not step on people's toes, but there are times where I don't have the time, and Siati will know what I mean like this. You don't have time to watch what other people are doing, so you can inadvertently do something, not realizing. I do watch some Siati's content, JB's content. I watch a lot, but I'm not there all the time understanding everything. So it's easy at times to accidentally trip over someone. I think JB is side questing. Look, JB is a very popular and influential man, and JB is, JB is today the biggest thing in FPV. Without doubt. There is no one bigger than JB in FPV today. Mr. Steele's not bigger than JB. Mr. Steele is popular, but he's not bigger. JB is one of the most well-known people in FPV. And with that is going to come all sorts of requests, all sorts of opportunities, all sorts of, things to allow people allow him to do some other stuff, and that's good, you know. Yeah, you know, no, look, JB is full time. See, there's this weird thing that people think creators shouldn't make money in FPV. I laughed because, look, this will lead nicely into. So am I, Mike. You're not alone. So I can say nothing on that subject, right? Fire Mike. So enough. So anyone who saw me hopping around the beach earlier, my fucking leg went to sleep will know that. It makes me laugh because there is this assumption that creators don't need money because they can live off the free stuff you send. Because, you know, that $80 free radio, that $100 handset, that, you know, that all pays the bills, doesn't it? And you're like, look, being able to receive gear is a privilege. But don't think for 1 minute it actually helps you. Okay, so I've talked about this subject before. I don't sell anything. I have everything I've ever been sent. Now, I am building a bit of a stock, and there is going to be some giveaways for my Patreons coming up. That is going to happen. But there are reasons why I've not sold anything, because I need to be able to go and get it and refer to it if I need to. So here's an example, right? And I've got a TX12 from Radio Master. Mark II. Let's just say they release the Mark III tomorrow. I would want both there to be able to compare to. So it is a waste sitting on a shelf a lot of the time doing nothing. But I have to have gear to be able to refer to. I need to be able to go back to that product and bring it back and check it or do something or test it. So it's not as simple as just going, and see, I just said it, thanks for the $80 radio, now go and spend 8 hours working off it. Oh, wait, I only make £10 an hour. Yeah, and that's if you were to sell it, Siati. And who's going to buy an $80 radio used? Because it is used, and you've probably taken it apart. And if you're me, you might have probably broken it. But yeah, you know, it's funny because you're in the dollar. People need to look up what the word shill actually means. Yeah, only bondage. Yeah. People seem to have this unrealistic opinion that creators shouldn't. Manufacturers oftentimes are not very happy. Yeah, no, look, nothing has ever been sold from here. Everything I have. But there's also logic to that. I wouldn't want to sell it. What if it's got a problem? A lot of the times what you get is actually pre-release anyway, so it's not... They make bloody changes, which doesn't help. But yeah, everything's here. So, you know, if they released a new TX12 tomorrow, I'd go, here's the old one, here's the new one. I need to be able to do that. So when you're doing this stuff, you need a lot of product. It's a reality. If you watch GN, if you look at Gamers Nexus, how many, like, how many of their older stuff they have to keep lying around. It's incredible. Albert Kim's feeling is hit. I know. I saw Albert. AK seemed to be doing a lot of scooter e-bike reviews. I noticed. I saw his phone one. He bought a used phone. He just did a video on it, which was quite interesting to see, actually. But I know he's been doing a lot of scooter and e-bikes, hasn't he? Look, there are people. You have to be able to make money. And this is what I was talking earlier about. It's really important for AM32 that this isn't rushed. Blitz FPV. Can you join the stream, but it's probably been asked or covered already. I covered it earlier. The basics are, there's no more BLHeli 32. Your existing ESCs will continue to work fine. Probably everyone else will move over to AM32. Give it a little bit of time. Albert Kim doesn't release his STLs, is it? I can't see, my chat's a bit small. Let me open it up over here. Gatekeeping STLs. Oh, sorry. Greetings from Indonesia. But yeah, look, it's so JB's off, is he? I didn't know. Look, JB, Seattle, look, I'm really lucky, right? I've got loads of people on a message that I can bring up. JB is like the king of FPV these days. And I am privileged at times that he'll ping me a message and I'll ping him a message on something and we'll have something back and forth. We've never spoke in person. I think JB's a great guy. I've been openly critical about him the odd time I've needed to, which was mostly about his frame, but that really wasn't JB. That was just the frame. JB will be critical about me when he feels it's the right thing to do so, and I will be more than happy for him to do that. I think he has done an incredible amount for FPV. He's the most important person in FPV today, to be honest. And none of us would be where we are without him. Oscar Liang, the website is incredible. What Oscar Liang is underrated for is the website is incredible. The website is, the amount of work that goes into that must be incredible. But then again, what we don't know is, does it generate revenue? You know, what you've got to ask yourself is it a business? I would think Oscar Liang's website must do very well out of ad revenue or clicks. The amount of traffic he must get, it must be big. Let's be honest. To run the website, it is a work of art. Although it isn't perfect, I'll be careful what I say, because at one point I did find a few of my images on there without credit, but that was corrected when I sent him an email. I don't know him. I think as far as I'm aware, he's a good guy. I don't even know if he knew they were my images, if I'm honest. Yeah, because I know Seattle obviously works on the website as well for JB, because you have the small section for the small stuff. Yeah, the website stuff is huge. The website is big work, big work. Look, for a lot of people, FPV is a business. Website for most people, FPV is a business. Soon I'll be releasing frames, motors, and ESC tuning videos. Just having a poke there at someone I know. Hey, Chris. How was the iFlight Eco today? It's a great drone. Zero complaints. Oh, thank you, Palpatry. I like whoops, to be honest. I don't like whoops. I like small stuff like this. I'm not a big whoop fan. I like little stuff like this. Seati does a great job. Seati does amazing because he does his build videos, which are great. We're really lucky in FPV. We're full of amazing people. I get typecast as the micro guy. 3 years only found 5-inch when I was really motivated to do a good scrub. Yeah, because you're a pro pilot, aren't you, Seati? And that's the difference. You're not going to be only flying micros as a pro pilot. Oh, thank you, Juice. Thank you for that. Yeah, look, the video earlier was just a bit of a... And I didn't even plan to do it, actually. The video I did earlier wasn't planned. I just sat down. I was waiting for the batteries to charge. I was going to fly the tiny whoop, but it was so windy. And it was like... and Cine whoops for work, yeah. So, look. And look, you know, he's a proper pilot. We're really lucky in FPV that we've got some really great people. We really are that. You've got like, no one does a tutorial better than JB. No one. I've watched JB's tutorials, and he did a video one day, and I commented on it, and it was freaking perfect. It was perfect. I sat there and just went, that's how you do it. That is how you do it. Whoop roof inspections. That's professional work. I hear lots of them are happening. Whoop roof inspections.
Well, digital's good enough now.
As in a 5-inch swoop. The Avata 2 is going to be ideal for roof inspections, I'll be honest. The size of it. So. Okay, so the last subject before we move on is Cadex. Okay, so I seem to cause a bit of drama this week with that video on those goggles. Now, for those who've seen my statement, I put one out. So I bought the goggles. They weren't a crap show, but the board was knackered. I asked Caddx FPV, is the board available to order? I was told no. I've been told by the warehouse it's no longer available. Sorry. And I was like, okay, that's shit. I'll finish the video up. Oh, that's really a good bit of the story. Started off with the goggles, finished the video up. In the end, it turns out, wow, the board's not available. The story is the goggles are bloody less than 2 years old for anyone, and the boards aren't available. Hardly surprising, mind, the way Cadex have been pushing development on. We've spoke about this loads of times. Cadex rushing, Cadex pushing forward with stuff far before they're really ready. It's nothing particularly new. The whole subject was fairly thing. The title wasn't clickbait. It said, parts not available. That was facts. Anyways, so it went out, and my God, did that video cause a stir. It didn't for 3 days. For 3 days, it bumbled along quite nicely. And then Facebook got hold of it, and then it turned into this massive issue. And you had everyone going, he's a shill, he hates Cadex, he's only doing it to make Cadex look bad. You had the guys who love DJI saying, see, he's turned, he's no longer supporting Cadex. And I'm just like, guys, all I've said is, here's the problem, here is what I found, and here's the outcome. I don't hate Cadex. I don't hate DJI. I poke at DJI. I don't hate them. I did a lot of work to try and get those goggles working. What you saw in that video was probably 10% of the repair work that I tried, honestly, because the video would have been 3 hours long if I hadn't. Plus, there is so much footage of me doing repairs on those goggles, honestly. And it was never meant to be anything but, hey, this is the score. And the Facebook got all of it and turned it into this huge thing. I'm evil, I'm nasty, I hate Cadex. You got the people who think the tribalism kicked in is the term I'll use. So anyways, after all the noise, Cadex reached out and went, actually, we've made a mistake. The board is available. Can we send you one? Now, they've told me that they made a mistake, and that's all I can believe. And look, I've had people who've said, but what if they're lying? What if it doesn't matter. They could have, look, some people have said, should we try and find out if they've got it for as an unknown person? To be honest, if they were going to fob me off, they'd have fobbed me off the first time. I tend to find Cadex are truthful with me overall, well, as much as they want to be, put it that way. I don't think there's any malice in this, okay? Now, as part of this, and this is something I haven't shared yet, as part of this, they apologised quite profusely, and they have also said, hey, because of all of the trouble we caused, we'd like to send you a set of goggles as well. Now, what I've said is, I don't need a set of goggles. However, can I give them away on the channel? And they have said yes. So, we are going to be giving away a set of Goggles X on the channel as well. As soon as I have them, there will be a giveaway on the channel for a set of Goggles X, because I don't want the bribe. I don't want it. But what I said was, wouldn't it be great if we gave them away? And they said yes. So, out of this, there will be a benefit for someone, because hopefully we can give away a set of goggles. And that's a good thing. So, there you go. but how can a non-influencer get aboard? Well, they said no to me first of all, Highfly. If they, they said no to me as an influencer first of all. So it was like, okay. They found one. Yes, it will be a set of Goggles X. So we're going to give away a set of Goggles X. Because I don't need a set of goggles. I wouldn't have taken them anyway, so we're going to give them away. It's not important. Look, what's important is Caddx have what's actually the most important thing out of this is they've said they will sort out problems. Regardless of what happens, they will sort problems out. Now, I will also add that I have emailed Fat Shark but had no response. But what I will also say is Rotor Riot did reach out and have offered to send a board as well. Now, here is something interesting in all of this. If you remember, when the new Goggles X came out, the Fat Shark goggles went on discount, and then they basically sold out everywhere. Today, though, okay, today, they're in stock everywhere again. So if you go to Rotor Riot, get FPV, and the others, the Dominator HD are still available, which sort of implies the production hasn't actually stopped, or at least they have a very large batch. But what is interesting is there are quite a few retailers with the original Dominator HD in stock available to buy now. So whereas we thought they were over, it might not actually quite be the case because they're still there. Here's what is crazy. If you're a member of their quad crew, you can get them for $300. That is a steal. That is an absolute steal of a price new. Clearing some stock? I don't know because they're everywhere. I don't know. 10 plus. You can add 10 plus to basket. And it's not just there. They're available elsewhere. And they definitely weren't. It's going to get FPV. They were definitely out of stock. Is it these? Yeah, don't they? Yeah, in stock, look. Get FPV. So I don't know what the score is. I don't know what the score is. It's very, very weird. Very strange. But anyway, so Fat Shark did reach out as well. But however, Cadex is sending a board apparently. So I haven't sorted it yet. But hopefully we can do the giveaway as well, which will be a good thing. Just catching down on the chat. Would I ever do a video on building a 3D printed Whoop or 3-inch? Been thinking of building one. You could print it out of the carbon fiber filament. I don't know how strong it would be. Should ask why they released the goggles. Well, the Goggles X was Caddex's own goggle. I'm not convinced these are in production. What I think is they just did a big batch, is what I predict. That's what I would bet, is there was a big batch just done, and they're just releasing through slowly. Let's be honest, goggle sales are not going to be huge. They're not going to be massive. You know, you're not talking 20, 30,000 units. You are over a period of time, but you're not talking that a month. You're talking very low numbers a month. So if they even had, say, 10,000 built, that could last a year or two, depending on supply. I do know some numbers from goggle sales, which I can't say. So, you know, it's just possible. But what surprised me was they reappeared on websites, because they were gone. They were definitely out of stock, but they're back in now. I don't know if we're going to see anything new from Fat Shark, though. Not that Fat Shark isn't a freaking corpse upside down in a lake at the moment. I use carbon fiber nylon for 3-inch print frames, and it's been amazing. Yeah, carbon fiber nylon will be solid. CF filaments would be the way forward. Definitely. ABS, CF, yeah. You could even... I saw something today which was very cool, which was someone using the metal-infused filaments and then kiln drying them, which would then melt away the plastic and leave the metal part. And it actually works. We need a homemade carbon fiber making machine, not cutting. I've been looking at sort of carbon fiber pricing. Jesus, sheet carbon is expensive right now. It is not cheap. Here's a question for folks. Other than the TBS, is there any good open source frame designs for 5-inch out there other than the TBS? You could DIY void cast bigger metal things. Open Racer. What is the best open source 5-inch frame out there right now? So someone has said Open Racer. The Nino is good. So Open Racer. So I've got that. Let me open each of these. Is that Beast Hard? Is the Beast Hard got a GitHub or something? Source 1, yeah, I know this. J no. AOS is not open source, no. Marcel, okay. So we've got the Open Racer, which is this one here. Oh, you're off axis. Hello. So this one here. emarcel.com. Source 1. I know there's the Source 1. JNEO 5.1. That's quite tidy. Bit over-engineered, but I do like that. I tell you what I do like about that. You don't know, not that guy. Do you know who that is? Okay, is that someone stealing you off axis? I tell you what, I do like that design. That's quite nice. It needs silicon mounts for the sides. But that's quite a nice looking frame. Open Racer. I'm also not Axis Motors. So what off Axis? What's yours? How do I find yours? You are now a moderator, which means you can post a link. Your frame. You said you do a frame, did you? Ah, sorry. I thought you said you did a frame. Okay. That frame is sex. That frame is real nice. That frame is really nice. I don't know how open source CAD thing works. How does it work? You just publish the files. So you just can publish the files on GitHub. You can publish the files on 3D printing websites. You can publish them wherever you wish. It is as simple as that. That is a real nice looking frame. I'll be honest. I like that. It needs an 03 camera mount properly. But that is a very, very nice looking frame. Reminds me of the early Speedy Bee, if I'm honest. With GitHub. Collaboration works. Yeah, you GitHub. You can share the files. Best artists on things verse. Okay. Interesting. Different designs at the front there, look, for the longer camera cage. For digital than analog. That's really nice. I like that frame. I really like that frame. That is a very, very nice piece of kit. Very cool. What's the editing rights on that? I wouldn't mind doing a bit of a change on that. That's very cool. I don't know. Look, look. It'll be you just re-download it or adjust it. It's a single file. How to pull requests? You wouldn't. You just have files for each part. That's all. Is more than buying a Preca quad. That is the problem, Shady, and that is something that I have noticed. The cost of pre-carbon is very, very expensive. That's the next issue. But no, I've got a couple. I might have something coming in that is CNC related to have a look at. So I want to do a frame. Don't worry, you're not going to get Mads Tech frames soon. I'd love to do my own open source frame. That would be cool. What I want from a frame. But yeah, I'm probably gonna make a project around this. I like that a lot. That is very, very nice indeed. And I am going to be doing something on that. Flying ruler. I'm not going to be designing a frame from scratch. I was just looking to tweak something is what I've been looking for. Something I can tweak. I plan on making some carbon Kevlar sheets for cutting on CNC. Just expensive 5mm thick. Yeah, this is the problem. Carbon fiber is so expensive. You know, you look at 5mm carbon sheet in the UK, right? 5mm carbon sheet. It is scary expensive. CB Runner, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. What was the HDZero news? Did I mention HDZero? Did I mention HDZero news? I don't think I mentioned HDZero news, did I? There is something new coming from HDZero that's been hinted at. A new little drone. 180 for 400 by 500, 17 gram in the UK. It's scary money. I've been actually looking on eBay, but I don't know how good that carbon fiber is. I've been considering compression molding a carbon fiber frame using shreds. That would be cool. Most of the stuff you buy in the UK will be imported. Yeah, and what you're buying is, most of it will be imported anyway. The Chinese stuff is going to be hit and miss. That's for sure. AliExpress pricing. Yeah, I'm just looking now, actually. So, I'm on AliExpress. I don't know who this is. For RC. So, real carbon fiber plate sheets. So, if we say 5mm plain matte is a 400 by 200 is £95. That is expensive. That's not... You're not getting many frames that are 400 by 200. That's a frame, isn't it? Is that specialist orders? I take it someone else caught that video about making forged carbon fiber parts at home. It's carbon fiber panel. Let's just see what else. Oh, that's not what I was searching for. I didn't copy it properly. There's got to be 3 sets of arms. Yeah, you're not getting much. You're not getting much out of that, you. Let's be honest. It does make you wonder how so many of these frames are so cheap from the likes of Speedy B and others. You know, when you got Speedy B selling frames at the price they're selling them, it does make you wonder how they're doing it. I just don't know how they're doing it. The glossy is the same price. I just don't see how. You know, how are they able to do those frames at that pricing? That just doesn't make sense. It just... Forged carbon fiber is really good too. You don't need a lot of stuff. There's a company that sells kits and they have really nice videos on YouTube. I'll have to have a look into that. Very large sheets and very large orders. Yeah, I'm guessing CB Runner, yeah. They're buying it by the pallet, wholesale and proper nesting. Yeah, that's the key in it. When you look at it, they must be buying it on crazy mass. At this size, you're just paying through the roof. Makes you wonder about making frames out of aluminium at this point. I wonder what the price of aluminium sheet would be. At least you wouldn't break an arm. You just bend it. I wonder what a full aluminium frame would be like. What's your stance on OpenIPC so far? Their kit on AliExpress since a couple of days ago. I've seen nothing so far that changes my opinion. Everything that I've seen is still far from ready for front-end users. It's not cheap. So what are you saying? The kits are on AliExpress. OpenIPC. So the kits are on here, are they? I don't know what I'm I'm not seeing it. What am I looking for? I'm not seeing it yet. Wouldn't it be too... Oh, Foxy, you did an aluminium frame 2 years ago. That's cool. A full aluminium drone. I might do an alley. An alley would be cool. An alley would be really cool. I like the idea of aluminium. It's going to be heavy, but I do wonder how close you could get. Interesting. So you could get aluminium at 76 quid for 0.5 by 0.5 by 5 mil. Okay. Half a meter by half a meter. Oh, no, that's carbon. Okay. Aluminium would be an interesting material. Wouldn't it be too heavy? It would be heavy, but you could carve it out in special ways. It would be very interesting to do an aluminium frame. It would be. Make it out of recycled beer cans. Oh, the carbon price is high on Ali, is it? Okay, I'll have to have a look again. Okay. Right, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up there. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who stayed with me tonight. I want to say a huge thank you to the Super Chats. Thank you, CB Runner. Thank you, Podcast. Thank you, What's Up. You guys are incredible. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who spent some time with me tonight. Hopefully, we should be back again, same time, same place next week. Look after yourself. Stay safe. And I will speak to you soon.